Okay, so good morning everyone. Welcome back to CS307 Computer Networks. Today is the fifth lecture in your series of in your course of Computer Networks. We'll be specifically looking at chapter number 2, section 2.2, which deals with an application layer protocol named as Hypertext Transfer Protocol or HTTP. Okay, so moving on with the next slide. So we covered principles of network applications, which included application architectures and application requirements in section 2.1. Today we'll be looking at web services and specifically hypertext transfer protocol. Okay. So first up, basic review. What does a web page consist of? A basic web page, whenever you retrieve it from any web server over the internet or from your local servers via local area network, it consists of objects, different types of objects. These objects can be an HTML file, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It could be a JPEG image, which is another format for images. It could be an applet written in Java. It could be an audio file. It could be a video file, etc. Okay. So whenever you try to retrieve a particular web page, it consists of a series of objects. Okay, and these objects could be literally anything, ranging from a file to an image to a video stream. Okay. There is something called a base HTML file included in each web page, which includes a reference to all the different objects which are embedded inside that web page. The objects are retrieved either one by one or in a single go. Okay. So each of the objects that is embedded inside your web page is directly addressable as well. Okay. So say for example you have a website which is a host name, so someschool.edu. Okay. Then forward slash some department, then forward slash a particular picture. Okay. Now, usually what happens is if you go for someschool.edu forward slash some department, and if you just leave it there and hit the return or enter or try to go onto this web page, it will automatically update you or basically load up the index.html file. The index.html file is going to be the default landing page, which is going to contain a series of different objects, which could be any of these different items. But each of these objects, which is a picture or which is a video streaming or audio file, can also be directly addressed. Okay, so you have the option of only viewing that particular item rather than viewing the entire web page. Okay. So how does that work? In order to do that, you need to have the complete path name. So the host name is going to be the name of the website, and then the path name is going to be the actual path where that file is located within the directory structure. So some department forward slash pic.gif. So this GIF image is basically included in the some department subdirectory of the main domain or the host name. Okay. So if you leave this blank, if you just type in the host name someschool.edu, or if you just type in forward slash some department after that, it will automatically pull the index.html file by default on the web server, which is going to be the entire set of objects which are embedded or included in that web page. But you have the option of retrieving those objects individually as well. Okay. So you can try experimenting it. You can go onto the CS department website or the FAST School of Computing website, and you will be able to see that there are multiple different images over there. If you hover over a particular image or if you right click on it and save it, you will be able to see what the actual name of the picture is, okay, by which name it has been saved in the actual directory structure. If later on you just type in that particular name, okay, append it properly after the host name, you should be able to see only that particular file in the web browser. Okay, so each of the objects which are embedded inside the web page are directly addressable. Okay. What is Hypertext Transfer Protocol? This is an application layer protocol. Okay, it is basically following a client server model. So the client is a web browser that requests and receives web pages or the different objects inside a web page using this particular protocol, which we call HTTP protocol. The server is running the opposite end of the software, which is a web server, which is using HTTP server. Okay, and in response to the GET requests or the display requests by the clients, the web server basically furnishes the exact web page, which includes all the objects which are included in that particular request or in that particular web page. Okay. So the web browser could be running on this HTTP browser or HTTP client could be running on a personal computer. It could be running on a mobile phone as well. Whereas your server is usually running some kind of web server or HTTP server software. One of the most prominent web server softwares that are available these days is the Apache web server, which is open source, not proprietary, and it can be easily installed in any Linux-based system, okay, especially Ubuntu. If you try doing it in the lab, it is just a simple two-set command that you need to use in order to basically start a web server or HTTP server on a particular Ubuntu machine. Okay, so that is the basic overview. This is your request and response. A HTTP request is sent from the PC to the web server, and the web server in response delivers the exact web page or the objects, let's say, which are embedded inside that particular web page. Same is true for iPhone or any other mobile platform, Android or Apple or whichever other web browser you are using from your mobile phone. HTTP is an application layer protocol. At the transport layer, it makes use of TCP. Okay, so port number 80, like I explained in the previous lectures, is specifically fixed for the use of HTTP protocol whenever you are using it with TCP. The server accepts TCP connections, incoming connections from the client, and you have HTTP messages, which are application layer protocol messages, which are exchanged between the client and the server over a TCP connection. Once the information exchange is complete, the underlying TCP connection is closed. We call a HTTP service a stateless service because the HTTP server does not maintain any state about the client. That is, it does not track the client, it does not know who the client is, or it does not keep any information in memory about the client. Okay. Protocols that maintain state are relatively more complex because you need to maintain a past history of the client. That is, if the client server model crashes, then you should be able to view the state at which it was crashed, and then you should be able to restart or resend the objects from that particular state once again. But HTTP by default is stateless. That is, it does not track the client. It does not have any information about the client or their previous browsing history. In order to add some kind of statefulness to a HTTP service, we make use of something called cookies. Okay, and cookies will be discussed later in the chapter. But for now, remember that pure HTTP, the protocol itself is completely stateless, as it does not maintain, or the server does not maintain, any information about the client once the client connection has been closed. Okay. There are two modes of operation of HTTP connections. The very first one is called non-persistent HTTP and the other one is called persistent HTTP. So a web page can have multiple different objects, an audio file, an image, a video file, etc. At most, only one object, if sent over a TCP connection, is a prime example of non-persistent HTTP connections. Okay, non-persistent basically means that if you have 10 different objects lying on a web page, then in order to retrieve each of those 10 objects, you will create a separate TCP connection. Okay, and once the object has been retrieved, the connection is going to be closed, and then you will start a new connection for the next object retrieval. Whereas with persistent HTTP, only one TCP connection is established between the client and the server at the transport layer, and using this TCP connection, all the application layer protocol, the HTTP protocol in specifically, downloads all the objects that are included in that web page and pulls everything using single TCP connection. Whereas in a non-persistent HTTP connection, you can have as many TCP connections as you have the number of objects on the particular web page. So this is an example of non-persistent HTTP. You type in this particular URL. URL stands for Universal Resource Locator. Okay, and you are basically trying to retrieve the file home.index. Okay, and let's suppose the home.index.html file contains 10 JPEG images. Okay, so you are going to make first connection. HTTP client is going to initiate a TCP connection on port 80 for the incoming for the server. The server will be listening on port number 80. It will accept the connection and notify the client. The client is going to send the request that basically indicates that I want this file home.index. Okay, At the third step, or let's say at the fourth step, we can say the HTTP server receives the request, generates a response which contains the requested object and sends the message into its socket. Okay, so this is the exact timeline of events. So HTTP server closes the TCP connection and the client receives the response which contains the HTML file. Okay. Parsing the HTML file basically tells it that it has 10 different JPEG objects embedded inside it. Okay. So the first five steps are repeated once again now to retrieve each of these 10 JPEG objects. So in total, it means that we have created 11 TCP connections. One TCP connection to retrieve the index.html file. Once we passed the file, we were able to understand that it contained 10 more objects. So then we started creating 10 different TCP connections, one each to retrieve these 10 objects. So that is 11 connections in total. So that is an example of non-persistent HTTP. Okay. When is it used, or what is the definition of round trip time, RTT? The time it takes for a small packet to travel from the client to the server and back. Okay, so initiate a TCP connection, send a request, and the server replies back to you. That amount of duration is called a round trip time. Okay, and this round trip time generally varies for each of your TCP requests. Okay. But the response time is important because one round trip time to initiate a TCP connection is quite important. It is going to basically determine the latency of the connection and the amount of time it takes to retrieve each of the individual objects which are embedded on that particular web page. So the total file transmission time is going to depend on the round trip time, let's say, multiplied or added as many times as you have the number of objects inside that particular file. So if you have 10 objects, that basically means you need to have at least 11 round trip times. Okay, one round trip time initially to hold the index.html file, and then 10 more round trip times to basically start a request and response for each of the 10 individual objects which are included in that particular web page. In addition to non-persistent, you have persistent model as well, which uses one single TCP connection. Okay. So in non-persistent HTTP, the main issue was the latency, that you needed at least two round trip times per object. So if you have one single object, then one round trip time is used for the index.html file and one round trip time is used to retrieve the object. Okay. Or you can say that the request response in total for each object is two round trip times. Okay. Definitely, there is a management overhead, that is, each TCP connection is going to involve a certain amount of time to get established before you can generate a HTTP request, then you can get a HTTP response, and then you can close down the TCP connection. Okay. So, in order to basically reduce latency, most of the web browsers start these multiple TCP connections in parallel. Okay. In contrast, you have another popular version of HTTP or operational model of HTTP, which is called persistent HTTP. In persistent HTTP, the server leaves connection open after sending the response. So in response to get index.html, it will reply with index.html, but it will keep the connection open. Okay. So then the client can request, okay, now send me object number one, which is a subsequent HTTP message between the client and server over this existing open connection, and then the server replies and it still keeps the connection open. So then client sends the second request, send me object number 2 now. Okay, and then object number 3, and then object number 4, and so on. Okay, and the server keeps on replying to these requests, but it keeps the connection open. Okay, so that basically means that we can use a single round trip time for all of the referenced objects. So using one single TCP connection and one single request for each of the 10 objects, we can reduce it if we operate it in parallel mode to a single round trip time. So there are two types of HTTP messages that we have discussed in general. The first one is the request and the second one is the response. The request message has a standard format which is get. Okay, so get index.html, that is basically going to retrieve the index.html or the default landing page, and then you have certain characters such as HTTP, which basically means we are using HTTP Application layer protocol 1.1 is the version number of HTTP. R is basically a return, okay, and N is the line feed character or for the new line, okay. So we say we get or we send out a request to get this particular HTML using HTTP version 1.1. What is the name of the host? net.cs.university of massachusetts.edu. Then what is the user agent we are using? That is what is the web browser. We are using Firefox version 3.6.10. We are going to accept text and we are going to accept XML as well as part of the response. The language we are using is English US, and we have a default, let's say, font size or queue size of 0.5. Okay. Encoding is gzip, and we are using the character set defined by ISO 8859. Keep alive is 115 seconds, and the connection is going to be kept alive. Okay. So a series of different lines or sentences, let's say, which comprises the syntax of the HTTP header. The most important thing to understand is contained in the very first line. Get, which basically is HTTP request. Get what? Get the index.html file and telling the server I am using HTTP protocol version 1.1. Okay. So that is the most important piece of information that is over there. So this is your request or line request once again. First the method, which is get or post. Okay. If the server is replying, it is going to reply with post in version 1.1 of HTTP. If we are using 1.2, post is going to be replaced by put. URL, the version of HTTP you are using, okay, the header field name, the values that we have discussed, and then after that the entire body of the message, that is the contents of the object or the contents of the index.html file. Two methods. Post, the web page often includes the form input. Okay, input is uploaded to the server as the entire body of the message or the entity of the body. The URL, which uses the get method to basically pull a particular URL. So get, post is important. URL is also considered a method, but you can think of URL as a resource locator, the actual name of the file, okay, or the object that you are trying to retrieve. Two versions of HTTP. Okay, so get, post. HTTP 1.0 is get, post, and head. Head basically just throws the header, which tells you the actual version of HTTP that you are using. And then in 1.1 we have get, post, and head. Okay. Post is used to post the actual forms. Some of the web page contains forms, so in order to submit that information you can use post. Head is again going to be used just to retrieve the header information. Put replaces post. Okay. It uploads the file in entity body to path specified in the URL field. Okay. Upload the file in a single entity. Delete basically deletes the specified file in the URL. Okay. Delete is not available in HTTP 1.0. So once again, the HTTP response message, the first line is important. We are using HTTP, we are using version 1.1. 200 is something called a status code. Okay, followed by OK. And then the date, the name of the web server that you are using, Apache. If you are using any form of tagging, that is going to be included. The ranges, okay, the bytes, the length of the content, that is the total number of bytes. What was the timeout value? Sometimes whenever you are trying to retrieve a web page, you get a timeout that the page has timed out. This timeout value basically defines the amount of time it takes before a timeout happens. The timeout default value and the maximum value. Okay. The connection type, whether it was text or HTML. Okay. And then the data, which is the actual body of the message. Okay. Once again, the most important line is the first line. We are using HTTP at the server. We are using version 1.1, and the status code returned by the server is 200. Okay, you would have seen a lot of status codes whenever you are trying to view web pages, such as status code of 400, status code of 404, 304, 303. You never see 200 generally because 200 means everything is okay and you get to see the actual web page. Okay. But these are the different status codes which are available in the first line that basically informs the client from the server side what was the status of your request and what have we done with that request. If we are replying with 200 from the server, means we have accepted your request and we are giving you the actual web page and the objects of the web page. So these are the important status codes. There is no need to memorize them, but you should be able to understand the basics. Okay, so 200 is okay. 301 moves basically means that the resource has been permanently moved. 400 is bad request, that the request message was not understood by your server. It could be a mismatch of the HTTP versions or something else. 404 means not found, that the requested document is not available. 301 basically says moved permanently. It also specifies in the message where the resource has moved. Whereas 404 simply says that the requested message was not found and the webmaster or the website administrator is not giving you any indication of where that resource might be. Whereas in 301 you are actually getting a link as to where the file is going to be. And 505 is going to be HTTP version, not so. Okay. So you can try using a bit of Telnet if we have a face-to-face session next week. We are going to perform this experiment in class as well. We are going to use Telnet to basically connect to a web server, generate a GET request from the command line, and then we are going to take a quick look at the response from the HTTP server. So we are going to try to understand the previous slide, that is the output of the HTTP header. Okay. You will be using Wireshark in the labs. You can also use Wireshark to basically capture individual HTTP packets or filter out HTTP packets from the entire network traffic. Have a look at them and have a look at their headers to basically understand the responses. Okay, so the next section is cookies. I will leave this for now because I'm still waiting for your face-to-face classes to start. This is something that I will explain to you in the lecture in the coming week. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Make sure that you review this, and if you have any further questions, we can have a very detailed discussion tomorrow during class about HTTP.